Here we go. As I said, super excited to be here today. This session will be about some lessons from successful ESP migrations, or actually, because we kind of approach it the other way around, how to avoid total disaster in that kind of situations. And you'll see what I mean by that in the coming moments we'll spend together. Um, Before jumping in, let me just quickly introduce myself. So my name is Cédric. I'm from Belgium in Europe, um, hence why the accent you might notice. I'm a solution architect lead here at Human 37. I've been working in marketing technologies for about 10 years now and had tens of customers across a lot of industries, integrating, migrating, and operating their ESP for various providers. Contrary to many great people that took the stage yesterday, I'm not too much of an email guy actually, or at least that's not my day to day, I would say. But over years, I've had the chance to work with and help a lot of people who are. So I guess to some extent, I kind of became one on the way. But long story short, my thing is to make sure that the right people have the right tools set up the right way to deliver the value they should to their own customers. At Human 37, we help businesses on two main areas: building and operating customer data infrastructure and elevating their customer experience. We basically help our customer design, implement, and operate their marketing stack to enable improved customer experience for their clients, from business intakes workflow, user stories mapping, infrastructure design, and of course, tools implementation, such as CDPs, data warehouse, and obviously, which is our full interest today, ESPs, but also operating those tools to deliver on the user stories and drive business value. In that scope, I've been helping business send millions of emails, and trust me, I've seen every kind of ESP migration disaster you can imagine, from the classic, oops, we just emailed 200,000 unsubscribed people on our first campaign, to the also so tragic, why are my order confirmation emails missing half the products in there? That's why today I kind of want to share lessons from all these migrations, so you can avoid the same headache if you find yourself having to migrate from your current ESP to another. And that's the thing. Obviously, I've also seen companies migrating their ESP the right way, and that's also what I want to share with you today. So we'll cover the biggest pitfalls companies face when switching ESPs, how to avoid disaster and make the transition smooth, but also the lessons from those who got it right. Sound good? Let's dive in. So if you're in a room right now, I'd like to ask you in a quick show of hands, who here has ever been part of an ESP migration? And then to keep your hand up if it went 100% smoothly. No issue, just flawless execution. Most likely, we'd have seen quite a lot of the hands rise up and then go down, because let's be honest, most migration have their fair share of issues. But in theory, ESP migration is quite straightforward. You take your emails, contacts, the automation, and you move them over to the new one, right? Right? Yeah, I think we can all agree that that's not that simple. Actually, if you think of it, switching ESP is kind of like moving houses. You think it's going to be simple. You just pack up, you move, and you unpack. But then you realize your furniture doesn't fit in the new apartment. The Wi-Fi is not working. And somehow your email is getting sent to your old neighbor's cat sitter. The worst part is you cannot just go back to your old place. So whether you like it or not, you have to make this work. I find this pretty accurate in describing how most ESP migration happen, actually. The old system feel comfy, you're used to it, and from one day to another, you have to move everything to a whole new place that you're not used to, and you have to make it work. So moving forward, let's think about what actually an ESP migration involves. Because as we said, it's not just exporting a list from a tool and uploading it to another. A proper ESP migration means moving multiple critical elements, including your contact list, obviously the subscribers, the suppression list, the segments, like everything. But it also involves moving all your templates, design, contents, your personalization tags, and God, you know that those ones can be problematic. It also means rebuilding all your automations and your workflows, your welcome email flows, the cart abandonment, re-engagement campaigns, like pretty much everything needs to be redone. It also requires that you rework your sending infrastructure, new IP addresses in many cases, rework domain authentication, all those stuff. Everything that's reporting and analytics as well. You need to redo pretty much everything or make sure that it's properly ported to the new platform. And you also have to wire pretty much all the integrations that the old ESP was having into the new one. Your CRM, data warehouse, e-commerce platforms, analytics tool, you name it. And the thing is, if you skip even one of these steps, well, things break. And broken things in email marketing mean lost revenue, angry customers, and a marketing team on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So let's see how to avoid that, right? Now that we've seen pretty much what's involved here, let's talk about what can go wrong, because trust me, things can often go wrong in those migration process. So I basically want you in the next few minutes to walk you through the five biggest pitfalls we've been seeing during ESP migrations over the many ones that we've seen over years. Lessons from companies that did it wrong so that you can do it right, basically. These might feel somehow theoretical. I can tell you they're not. Those are real issues that we've seen causing major problems for many companies during migrations. And each one of these pitfalls actually has most of the time clear avoidable cause. So here's what we're going to cover. The first one, deliverability risk, also known as the Great Spam Apocalypse. You switch ESP and suddenly nobody is opening your emails anymore because they're all going straight to spam. Why does it happen? How do we prevent it? That's the first one that we will cover in the next section. Then the data migration complexity, or as I like to call it, the mystery of the missing suppression list. The thing is, if you don't migrate your data properly, things can start to go very wrong at many different levels. And trust me, you definitely don't want to have that. The third pitfall would be email templates and automation breaking, also known as where did my beautiful email go? One day your email look perfect, the next they're a hot mess with broken images, ugly formatting, subject lines that say hi first name, and I know many of you will recognize yourself in that one because who never received a newsletter or an email from one of the brands you're subscribed to with that very, very beautiful mistake. Fourth one that we cover, integration nightmares. So your ESP basically doesn't exist in a vacuum. It needs to sync perfectly with the other living components of your stack, your database, your CRM, e-commerce system, and other tools. If that connection breaks, well, that's where bad things happen. And the fifth and last pitfall that we'll cover here, team training and adoption challenges, also known as the what do you mean I can't find the send button. A new ESP is a new way of working for many teams. If your team isn't trained properly, campaigns get delayed, mistakes happen, and people get frustrated. These five are, from my experience, the five most recurring reasons why ESP migration often go wrong. But the good news is that every single of these can be prevented if you know what to look for. So let's dive into the first and probably one of the most annoying of these pitfall, the deliverability risks. Because trust me, there's nothing more terrifying than sending your first email from your new ESP and realizing that nobody is seeing it. So imagine this. You've just migrated to the brand new ESP. You're super excited. Your first big email campaign is ready to go, and you hit send, then nothing. No opens, no clicks, just silence. Why? Well, because your emails are rotting in the spam folder graveyard, as they like to call it. Just like that, your migration has turned into an horror movie, actually. The issue here is the sender reputation. Email providers, so Gmail, Outlook, and the others, they don't just trust you because you say, hey, it's me, what's up? No, they see you as a brand new sender and they assume you might be spammy. And if you don't warm up your email reputation properly, your emails get flagged. And once they land in spam, it's really hard to get them out of there and to fix that reputation. We had the case not too long ago with one of those startups that just wanted to go fast and kind of burn the step and just go live as soon as possible. They went from a LT 25% open rate from a day to a 4% open rate the day after. Turns out that they skipped the IP warm up totally. So Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, they all saw an unknown sender suddenly blasting thousands of emails. And that's where the spam filter said, no, not going to happen. Pretty annoying. And trust me, you don't want to be there. So how can we prevent that to happen and how to make sure that you don't fall into that pitfall in a migration? Well, first, the warm-up process. Super important to have a clear plan on how to warm up the IPs. You need to warm it up gradually. Start by sending small batches, slowly increase volume over a week. Might seem obvious for some, but you'll be surprised how often that step is underestimated. As I said, super important to have a plan. You need to know what is your most engaging content historically. What are your most engaged user and build your plan accordingly. Start by sending that most engaging content to the most engaged users on a low scale to make sure that you maximize the engagement and send plenty of good signals to the systems. Then build over time and progressively go down in quality of that content and users if necessary. But make sure that you're off on a great start for that warm-up. Then you have also simple steps such as authenticating your sending domain, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, all those that help the email providers to recognize you. So don't skip that step. Then super important during the whole process, monitor your sender reputation. Use tools like Google Postmaster to see and check if ISPs are blocking you. Watch your key metrics on a daily basis, such as hard and soft bounce, spam complaints, open rates, click rates, all those signals that show you how the delivery happens for you, your new IP, basically. If you see poor results, just pause everything, dig deeper and find out the issue and try to fix it. Only once that's fixed, resume it up to the moment that you're ready to go on an always on pace. Also, highly recommended to use an hybrid approach in the sense that you should keep sending from your old ESP while warming up the new one. That gives you the buffer to take the time to do things properly. Do not plan to start a warm-up of a new ESP 2 weeks before the old ESP contract ends. And trust me, I've seen some of those, and it rarely ends up in a good way. That's just unnecessary pressure and gives you no room for anything to go wrong. So main takeaway for that first pitfall would be to that switching an ESP is like moving to a new neighborhood. You wouldn't throw a massive party on day one, right? Maybe you would, but you shouldn't. You'd start by saying hello to the neighbors, maybe bringing over a plate of cookie. Well, it's the same thing here. You need to build trust with inbox providers before starting to send large campaign to avoid any troubles. Second pitfall, the data migration complexity. So you've moved all your contacts over to the new ESP. everything looks great. You send the first email, and suddenly you're getting thousands of angry responses from people saying, I unsubscribed from that list years ago. Turns out that you forgot to migrate your suppression list. This is how companies accidentally email unsubscribed users, leading to spam complaints, lost trust, and even legal troubles. We had that not too long ago. I was working with a brand that thought they had migrating their suppression list, but it turns out that the data got corrupted during the transfer. It was imported as a target list instead of suppression. So they ended up sending an email to 10,000 previously unsubscribed users. You can imagine the spam complaints exploded, and it was a mess to fix that afterward. Also imagine the revenue loss and the hustle to get that fixed. That's one of the many examples of what can go wrong if the data migration is not done properly. So how can we prevent that to happen? Well, the first step, and probably one of the most important one, is to have a clear migrations checklist. Make a list where you list everything that needs to be ported to the new ESP. Lists, data points, flows, everything that you need to at least be able to do what you're able to do in the old ESP, eventually more. Also, make sure to prioritize. You might not be able to, and probably you shouldn't, move 100% of what you're doing today, flows and campaigns in a single batch to the new ESP. So plan accordingly and have a clear timeline on how to roll that out efficiently. Then audit all data before migration. Double check everything, opt-in, unsubscribe, segmentation, but not only. A migration is also the opportunity to make sure that the data you pump in the ESP is clean and complete. User attributes from your CRM, behavioral data points, product catalog you'll be using to push dynamic content. Validate that everything is as it should, and if not, fix it before your server migration. Third, and that's a topic that will be recurring for the next few challenges, test with a small segment first. Send to a control group before a full rollout. This way you avoid any bad surprises on a large scale. And finally, put a process in place in the transition. Because if you start sending from two systems, it means some user may receive campaigns from each of these systems, but can also unsubscribe in both of these systems. So plan that ahead and make sure that if it's the case, it's handled properly and the systems communicate to each other. Main takeaway in this one is just that an email migration isn't just about moving contacts. It's about moving clean, accurate, and complete data. Third pitfall, the email templates and automation rebuild. You've likely spent years perfecting your email templates. They look great, they perform well, but now in the new ESP, buttons are misaligned, images aren't loading, and the dynamic content, instead of hi Sarah, it's saying hi first name. Nothing like a little first name to make your customer feel super valued. So yeah, really, really one that we want to avoid there. How we prevent that to happen? Well, as annoyingly as it might seem, you rebuild your key templates manually. Copying and pasting from an ESP to another often breaks formatting, unfortunately. You don't want to take any risk on your key templates, so rebuild them properly from scratch. It might also be the opportunity to upgrade some of those that could use a good refresher. So really see it as an opportunity to clean what you have today. As before, test on multiple devices. Emails should look perfect on desktop, on mobile, on any device. Don't trust previews only. Send test email and open it from various devices to make sure it's perfect. And finally, double check personalization tag, because yeah, every ESP uses slightly different syntax. Would be too good if everything was the same everywhere, right? It would just take all the fun out of it. And obviously, if a broken image or a misaligned button look bad, well, failed personalization definitely looks very, very bad too when a user receives it. So key takeaway on that pitfall is that ESP platforms are just not one size fits all. What worked before won't necessarily work now. So test everything before hitting send. Fourth challenge, the integration nightmare. So you've got your ESP setup, but suddenly the CRM is not syncing, your e-commerce platform is not updating. Your segmentation rules are totally broken. Why? Well, because the new ESP isn't properly connected to the other tools of your tech stack. You thought everything was working, but it's not. We had the case not too long ago of a retail company that had their Shopify integration not fully and properly connected, which ended up having the abandoned cart email not being sent for like a week, costing them thousands of lost revenue, as you can imagine. So yeah, one definitely to pay a lot of attention to. How do we prevent it? Well, first and probably one that could be applied actually to all the other pitfalls as well is to start from mapping your business use case. Have a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve, and that will help you map what you need to do so. So the triggers for specific automation, the data points for template personalization, user fields for advanced segmentation, all of that, and where from which system it will come from in the ESP. This should cover everything that you currently are able to do, so the existing flows, but also things that you wish you could do but can't in your current ESP. Because again, a migration is often the opportunity to go the extra mile and to unlock new capabilities. Then map out all your integrations back before migration. Make sure they're compatible with the new ESP as is, and if not, have a workaround or a backup plan. Ideally, that step is done before selecting the new ESP, but sometimes you have some surprises. So set up and test all these connections and integrations early in the process. Don't wait for the very end. The sooner you identify the gaps, the better you can react and find solutions. Don't wait for the very end for that step, like really. And again, run end-to-end tests before launching all scenarios, the ones where everything is going as you expect, but also those where it's not necessarily the case, and make sure that's handled properly in the system. So the takeaway there is that your ESP is not an island. It must connect seamlessly to your entire marketing ecosystem. Last pitfall for today, the learning curve and training. So your ESP migration is done, everything is in place, but then your team logs in and has no idea how to use the platform. Campaigns are delayed, automations are working or are breaking, and suddenly you've got a team Googling how to send an email in the ESP. We've had that plenty of time in clients we've worked with where a team switched ESP but didn't train the marketing staff ahead of time because project managers and technical teams were in lead for the migration and handed over the solution to the end users. Suddenly, campaign launch times tripled, basic automation were broken, and simple things like segmentation took way more time. So to prevent that, obviously you should provide early access and training to the teams, to the end user team. Give your team sandbox accounts to test before launch and play around in the platform and make sure they spend time using it. Like watching academy courses or videos won't make it. Really, they need to use a tool and crack the net. Provide the training before the migration. Don't wait until after the switching. Not a good idea. Super important one and so and often underestimated, create internal documentation, cheat sheets, user flows, best practices documents. That will help a lot to speed up the learning, but also to onboard new people in the future if needed. Ideally, you'd start with a pilot team before a full rollout to make sure you have an internal champion or having external experts that you can turn to should you be blocked or have any issues in the learning period and the first few months of the new ESP. And then finally, always have a backup plan. Keep critical automation running on the old ESP until the new system is 100% ready. So main takeaway on that one would be that the best ESP in the world is quite useless if your team doesn't know how to use it. So train early, launch smoothly. Just to quickly recap the final takeaways, start from the use case and make sure you have everything at hand to make them a reality in the new ESP. Audit and clean your data before migration. Rebuild and test email templates and automation properly. Double check all the integrations and transactional emails. Warm up your IP and send the reputation properly, and train your team before making the switch. If you follow these steps, your migration should be a success. If you don't, well, let's just say that your welcome back email might come from the old ESP, and we don't want that. So voilà, that's pretty much it for me. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So happy to answer any question that you guys would have.
I love it. Thank you so much for presenting. I think that was very valuable, and it seems like a good majority and a good chunk of people have gone through an ESP migration that are in attendance right now. Some carry trauma like me. So this was super, super helpful for people. We have one question with the most votes. Emily, how do you discern when a migration is truly necessary? Loaded question.
Good question. There might be actually several factors that make you go into a migration, and they differ from situations to others. Can be that the company reached a maturity that makes that the old ESP is not enough anymore for what they want to do, and they want to unlock like new features and yeah, a new level, I would say, of the life cycle journeys. Can be for some financial reasons, like they need to cut costs or to integrate within an ecosystem that has an ESP tied to it and move into that. It can be like actually it can be a lot of different reasons, but I would say the most valuable one is when you get to that point where you feel stuck in your current ESP and you want to do more, and the company has grown enough to go the step further. That's usually a healthy moment to switch and move to a next ESP to really go the next step, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we have time, I think, for one more question. I think this is a really good question. How long to continue to send in an old ESP and a new ESP while warming up?
Yeah, again, I would say it would depend. Speaking of marketing emails, transactional emails, the thing is you should keep sending from the old ESP up to the moment the new one is ready. I mean, fully ready to absorb the volumes that you're intended to send. And the team feels comfortable to have everything in the new ESP versus the old one. You shouldn't rush things just for the sake of we have the new ESP, let's move. That's why it's always better if like the transition between the old and the new one gives enough room for that buffer if it's required, right? I think I said it in the presentation. You definitely don't want to have that 1 month window where the contract of the old ESP is getting to an end and the new one needs to be live by then at full pace, because those are the worst stories that we always have when we're in those situations. So yeah, I wouldn't say there is a one duration, because obviously that will be different from a business that is smaller and less mature and only has a few automations, quite limited volumes, for which a migration can be rather fast and the old ESP can be decommissioned quite quickly, or a super big organization with thousands of flows, sending millions of emails a day, where for those, definitely the transition period must be way longer and yeah, that's where a clear timeline and a plan on what to migrate when is super important.
Yeah. Both answers I feel like are like an it depends to both the first question
Cons
and the
cons
second.
con consultant answer. Sorry for that.
Yeah. No, all good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate
Sure.
you taking time out of the end of your day to come in and share some of your perspectives. We had one comment from Alex saying, the most useful session for me right now. Thanks so much. So I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
joining us. Thanks so much. We'll
Sure.
see you
Thank you,
another
guys.
time. All right.